In a historic and unprecedented move, the United States Congress has officially voted to eliminate the long-standing $200 tax on firearm suppressors, a fee that has been in place for nearly a century and has shaped the landscape of American gun ownership for generations. This sweeping change also applies to short-barreled rifles, or SBRs, and will take effect on January 1, 2026, signaling a new era in federal firearms regulation. For decades, these items were heavily restricted under the National Firearms Act, requiring not only a lengthy approval process, but also the payment of this significant tax. The decision is being hailed as a major victory by Second Amendment supporters and gun rights organizations across the country. For them, this is more than just a policy change, it's a restoration of rights they believe have been unfairly limited for too long. Celebrations have erupted at rallies and outside government buildings, with advocates waving American flags and expressing hope for further reforms. Supporters argue that suppressors are not just accessories, but essential safety tools that help protect hearing and reduce noise pollution at shooting ranges and in rural communities. They point out that suppressors can make recreational shooting safer for everyone involved, including bystanders and neighbors. Similarly, short-barreled rifles are praised for their practical benefits, offering improved maneuverability and control in certain situations, especially for sport shooters and those interested in home defense. Enthusiasts say these firearms can be used responsibly and safely when proper training and precautions are followed. However, not everyone is celebrating. Critics, including some law enforcement officials and gun safety advocates, are voicing serious concerns about the potential risks. They worry that making suppressors and SBRs more accessible could lead to increased misuse, complicate law enforcement efforts, and pose new challenges for public safety. The repeal has reignited a passionate and sometimes heated debate over gun regulation in America. Both supporters and opponents are mobilizing, preparing for the wide-ranging impact this change could have on communities, law enforcement, and the firearms industry. To fully understand the significance of this decision, we'll take a closer look at the history of the $200 tax, tracing its origins back to the 1930s and the legislative journey that led to its repeal. We'll also examine the legal battles, political negotiations, and shifting public attitudes that made this landmark change possible. Understanding this new law is crucial for everyone, not just gun owners, but also those in the firearms industry, law enforcement agencies, and the broader public. The effects will ripple through manufacturing, sales, and community safety, touching the lives of millions of Americans in different ways. As the nation prepares for this significant change, it's more important than ever to examine the facts, consider the arguments on both sides, and reflect on what this means for the future of gun policy in America. The coming months will be critical as lawmakers, citizens, and advocacy groups navigate the new landscape and its far-reaching implications. The National Firearms Act of 1934, often referred to as the NFA, was crafted during a turbulent period in American history. The early 1930s were marked by a surge in organized crime, with notorious gangsters like Al Capone and John Dillinger making headlines. These criminals often used powerful weapons, machine guns, sawed-off shotguns, and silencers, to outgun law enforcement and terrorize communities. In response, Congress sought to curb the violence by targeting the tools of the trade, not just the criminals themselves. Rather than outright banning these firearms and accessories, lawmakers took a different approach. The NFA imposed a hefty $200 tax on each regulated item, a sum equivalent to over $4,500 today. For most Americans during the Great Depression, this was an astronomical amount, effectively putting these weapons out of reach for ordinary citizens. The tax was not just a financial barrier, it was a statement of intent, signaling the government's determination to control access to particularly dangerous firearms. In addition to the tax, the law mandated strict federal registration of all covered firearms. Owners had to submit fingerprints, photographs, and detailed paperwork, all of which were kept on file by the government. This created a high barrier to ownership, making the process lengthy, invasive, and intimidating for many. Over the decades, inflation gradually eroded the real impact of the $200 tax, but the NFA's legacy as a symbol of heavy federal regulation endured. The law became a cornerstone of American gun control, referenced in countless debates and legal battles. In recent years, gun rights advocates have argued that the original reasons for the NFA are outdated. They point out that suppressors, once seen as tools for criminals, are now widely used for hearing protection by sports shooters and hunters. Short-barreled rifles, or SBRs, are valued for their versatility and practicality in legitimate sporting and self-defense contexts. For those who support repealing or reforming the NFA, the tax and registration requirements are seen as unfair relics of a bygone era, barriers that punish law-abiding citizens more than criminals. On the other hand, supporters of the law argue that these measures remain vital safeguards, helping to prevent dangerous weapons from falling into the wrong hands. The debate over the National Firearms Act is deeply rooted in America's history, but its consequences are still felt today. As lawmakers and citizens continue to grapple with questions of safety, rights, and regulation, the NFA remains at the heart of the national conversation about firearms in the United States. The repeal of the NFA tax followed years of advocacy and legislative maneuvering. Bills like the Hearing Protection Act sought to remove suppressors and SBRs from the NFA entirely, but faced obstacles in Congress. Gun rights groups mobilized grassroots campaigns, making the issue a top priority for lawmakers. Ultimately, a provision eliminating the $200 tax was inserted into a larger spending bill, a strategic compromise. While not full deregulation, removing the tax was celebrated as a major victory. The NRA and others see this as a stepping stone, vowing to push for further deregulation. Persistent advocacy and political strategy proved decisive. The stage is now set for future legislative battles. Starting January 1, 2026, the $200 federal tax stamp for suppressors and SBRs is gone. This makes these items more affordable, but the rest of the NFA process, registration, fingerprints, background checks, remains unchanged. Wait times for approval can still stretch months or longer. The delayed start gives the ATF time to update systems and avoid confusion. Until then, the tax is still required for new purchases. Some buyers may wait for the repeal to take effect. In short, the law removes a financial barrier but leaves the regulatory framework intact. Prospective owners will save money but not time or paperwork. It's crucial to distinguish between the tax repeal and full deregulation. The new law removes the $200 fee, but suppressors and SBRs remain under strict NFA regulation. Full deregulation would treat them like standard firearms, no special paperwork, no registration, no long waits. Congress wasn't ready for that step, so the current law is a compromise. Gun rights groups see this as progress, but not the end goal. Owners must still comply with all NFA rules minus the tax. The process remains complex, but ownership is now more financially accessible. Eliminating the $200 tax will make suppressors and SBRs accessible to more people, likely driving up demand. The industry expects a surge in sales and innovation as new buyers enter the market. The National Shooting Sports Foundation hails the law as a boost for jobs and safer shooting practices. Advocates hope wider ownership will dispel myths and normalize these items as safety tools. As more law-abiding citizens own NFA items, political support for further deregulation could grow. If crime rates remain unchanged, it strengthens the case for loosening restrictions. The law's impact will ripple through the economy, politics, and public perception. The next few years will be telling. As the new law takes effect, a diverse array of experts from the fields of law, industry, and public health are weighing in, each bringing their own unique perspective to the table. Their insights help us understand the complex and far-reaching implications of this legislative change. Jonathan Blanton, a respected constitutional law scholar, views the repeal as a significant shift in legal philosophy. He explains that historically, financial barriers like the suppressor tax were used as a means of regulation. Now, the focus is moving away from simply making ownership expensive and instead zeroing in on who is eligible to own these devices. Blanton believes this could set a precedent for how other firearm-related laws are crafted in the future, emphasizing individual responsibility and eligibility over blanket restrictions. From the industry side, analyst Maria Cortez predicts a dramatic transformation in the suppressor market. She anticipates that demand could triple within just a few years, providing a substantial boost to both manufacturers and local gun stores. Cortez notes that this surge in interest could lead to new jobs, increased investment in research and development, and even the emergence of innovative suppressor technologies as companies compete to meet consumer needs. However, Cortez also warns that this rapid growth will not come without its challenges. Manufacturers may struggle to keep up with demand, potentially leading to supply shortages and longer wait times for customers. Additionally, navigating the evolving patchwork of state and federal regulations will require vigilance and adaptability from everyone in the industry. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a leading public health researcher, brings a different perspective. She cautions that wider access to suppressors could complicate the work of law enforcement and raise new public safety concerns. Reed points out that suppressors, while beneficial for hearing protection, could make it more difficult to detect gunfire in certain situations, potentially hindering emergency response. Dr. Reed urges policymakers and researchers to closely monitor the outcomes of this law. She emphasizes the importance of collecting comprehensive data on both intended and unintended consequences, so that future decisions can be guided by evidence rather than speculation. A veteran law enforcement officer offers a practical viewpoint, noting that the suppressor tax itself was never a major factor in policing. What truly matters, he says, is the thoroughness of the National Firearms Act background check, which remains in place to screen out those who should not have access to these devices. The officer explains that as long as the background check process remains robust and comprehensive, law enforcement can continue to focus on preventing illegal acquisition and misuse, rather than being distracted by administrative hurdles. He adds that law-abiding citizens who use suppressors for legitimate reasons, such as hearing safety at shooting ranges, are not a concern for police. The real issue lies with those who attempt to bypass the law and obtain suppressors illegally. As long as strict vetting and enforcement remain priorities, the officer believes that the change in law is unlikely to have a significant impact on the day-to-day work of police officers across the country. The effects of this new law will be closely watched by advocates on all sides of the debate. Gun rights supporters see it as a victory for personal freedom, while gun control advocates worry about potential risks to public safety. Journalists and policy experts will be tracking developments and reporting on the real-world impact. Over the coming years, researchers and lawmakers will gather and analyze data to assess the law's true effects. This evidence will be crucial in shaping future debates and guiding any necessary adjustments to policy. One thing is certain: the conversation about suppressors, gun laws, and public safety is far from over. As the landscape continues to evolve, all sides will remain engaged, ensuring that this issue stays at the forefront of national discussion. The NFA tax repeal is a testament to the power of organized advocacy. Gun rights groups mobilized members, flooded Congress with calls, and kept the issue in the spotlight. Their pragmatic approach, accepting a partial win, proved effective. The campaign shows that persistent unified citizen action can drive federal policy change. This victory energizes advocates for future battles and underscores the importance of civic engagement. The less organized voices can shape the law. With the tax repeal set for 2026, attention turns to the next phase of gun legislation. Gun rights advocates aim for full deregulation, targeting NFA registration and wait times. Gun control groups will monitor the law's impact, ready to push back if negative trends emerge. Both sides will use real-world data to argue their case in Congress and the public sphere. The debate over firearms in America is far from settled. The future will be shaped by ongoing advocacy, engagement, and the law's real-world effects. This story is just beginning.